Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a simple question. If your mind is the control center of your life, who's been programming it? Because here's the truth most people don't want to admit. You've been brainwashed by the media, by your past, by people who quit on their dreams and told you to be realistic. But starting today, you're going to brainwash your own mind, not for negativity, not for mediocrity, but for greatness, for abundance, for purpose. So what if I told you that in just the next 5 days, you could flip the script, not by chance, by choice? Let me show you how. Day 1, cancel the old contract. Cancel the old contract. That's the first and most crucial step if you want to rewire your mindset and build a life that reflects your real potential. Most people walk around every day operating under an invisible agreement they never consciously signed. An agreement that says, I'll stay small, I won't ask for too much, I'll play it safe. It's a contract built on fear, insecurity, rejection, and survival. It's not written in ink. It's etched in repeated experiences, disappointments, and the limiting beliefs we adopted from people who gave up too soon. But just because you accepted that agreement once doesn't mean you have to keep living by it. Today, you cancel it. You've got to look yourself in the mirror and get honest. What rules have you been living by that aren't serving you? Who told you success was for other people? Who convinced you that you had to earn love by shrinking your worth? Who taught you that wanting more meant you were ungrateful? These beliefs don't come from the truth. They come from patterns. Patterns of pain, patterns of failure, patterns of repetition, the people you were raised by, the friends you kept, the systems around you, all of it shaped that mental agreement. But if it's not aligned with where you're going, it's got to go. Canceling the old contract means you stop co-signing self-sabotage. You stop justifying average behavior with old pain. You stop saying things like, that's just how I am, or this is just my luck. You're not cursed, you're conditioned. You were taught to believe you can only go so far. You were taught to apologize for your ambition. But the truth is, none of that was ever real. That was someone else's story. It's time you choose to write a new one. This process starts with awareness, but it has to be followed by a decision. Canceling the contract is not just a mindset shift. It's a daily choice. You're not just thinking positive. You're refusing to be ruled by limitations that were never yours to begin with. You're identifying the lies you've lived under and consciously breaking up with them. That's not woo-woo. It's warfare, mental warfare, because your mind is a battlefield and the enemy is subtle. It sounds like your own voice. It uses your memories. It disguises itself as logic. But all it really is fear dressed up in familiar language. When you cancel the old contract, people might not understand. They're still operating under theirs. They'll call you cocky when you finally walk in confidence. They'll say you've changed. And they're right. You have changed. Because the old contract kept you limited. It kept you looping in the same cycles. It kept you addicted to struggle and allergic to success. But now, you're making a new agreement. Not with fear, not with lack, but with power, with ownership, with truth. Canceling the old contract also means you stop waiting for permission. You stop needing someone to validate your vision before you believe it's real. You're the author. You're the authority. If it's in you, it's because it's for you. That dream, that vision, that's not random. That's a preview of what's possible once you let go of who you were trained to be. The most dangerous thing you can do is keep living by a belief system you never question. You've got to challenge every thought that tries to tell you you're not ready, not worthy, not capable. That's old programming. That's the outdated software you've been running for years, and it's time for a hard reset, a factory restore. And it starts when you say, I no longer agree with this version of me. Day 2, speak what you want. Speak what you want. It sounds simple, but it's one of the most powerful tools you have, and most people never use it correctly. They speak what they see, not what they desire. They speak from their current reality instead of their future vision. But words are not just expressions of thought. words are containers of power. Every time you speak, you're casting a vote for the life you're going to live. And whether you're aware of it or not, you're either speaking your dream into existence or reinforcing your doubt. The problem is we've been trained to speak based on circumstance. When money is tight, we say, I'm broke. When opportunity feels scarce, we say, there's nothing out there. When we hit resistance, we say, this always happens to me. That's not just describing the moment, that's writing the next chapter of your story. Your words are painting the walls of the future you'll have to live inside. You describe what is, you create what will be. And if you keep rehearsing defeat, you're rehearsing for a life you don't even want. Start paying attention to how you talk about yourself, your goals, your situation. If someone followed you around and only heard your words, would they believe you're a person with vision or a person living in fear? Most people don't even realize how often they curse their own life with casual language, saying things like, I could never do that, or things never work out for me, or I'm not that lucky. None of that is harmless. It's a spell you keep casting over your own potential. You have to discipline your mouth to only speak in alignment with what you're building. That means replacing complaint with command, replacing fear with faith. Instead of saying, this is hard, you say, this is stretching me into who I'm supposed to become. Instead of saying, I can't afford that, you say, I'm finding ways to create the resources I need. This isn't denial of reality. It's declaration of authority. You're not ignoring the facts, you're deciding which facts deserve your focus. You speak from the outcome, not the obstacle. That's how leaders speak. That's how creators speak. That's how people who shift their lives speak. They understand that speech is spiritual. It's not just noise, it's intention. Every time you open your mouth, you're either giving life to a limitation or oxygen to a dream. So what are you choosing to breathe life into? Speaking what you want also means having the courage to say things that aren't visible yet. You say it before you see it. You call it done before it shows up. And yes, people might laugh. They might question you. They might call it unrealistic, but unrealistic speech creates uncommon results. That's how every breakthrough begins, with someone crazy enough to say out loud what others only whisper in their hearts. Your words create your atmosphere. That's why some people feel stuck all the time. They're living in the storm they keep speaking. If you want peace, speak peace. If you want power, speak power. If you want abundance, speak abundance. And don't just speak it once. Repetition creates rhythm. Rhythm creates belief, and belief unlocks access. You've got to make declarations part of your daily routine, like brushing your teeth, like going to the gym. It's not optional. It's foundational. What you say when nobody's listening is even more important than what you say in public, because that's when the real programming happens. That's when you're planting seeds in your subconscious. If you can change your inner dialogue, your outer world won't have a choice but to follow. Words are blueprints. Speak like a builder. Speak like you're constructing something you're proud to live in. Speak like you already believe it's done. Day 3, see the future now. See the future now. That's not a metaphor, it's a requirement. Because if you can't see it in your mind first, you will never experience it in your life. Your future doesn't start when the results show up. Your future starts the moment you create it with your imagination. Most people are trapped in the loop of replaying the past, but visionaries, people who truly change their lives, they live from the future. They don't wait for evidence, they generate it internally. They don't need permission to dream big. They make their future feel more real than their history. Your mind is constantly creating images, and those images become instructions. When you imagine failure, your brain goes to work trying to fulfill that image. When you visualize rejection, your nervous system prepares to shrink. But the reverse is also true. When you visualize success, confidence, breakthrough, your body starts adapting to that future as if it's already happening. That's why you can't afford to let the world choose your vision for you. You have to be intentional about what you're seeing, because what you consistently see in your mind is what you begin to expect. And what you expect is what you unconsciously move toward. Seeing the future now means you no longer wait for proof. You're not relying on your current situation to define your destination. Your bank account doesn't dictate your capacity. Your environment doesn't determine your worth. The only thing that sets the ceiling on your life is your imagination. And the problem is, most people's imagination has been damaged. They've spent so long suppressing their dreams that they've forgotten how to see clearly. But vision isn't gone, it's just buried. And the way you bring it back is through repetition, clarity, and emotion. When you visualize, you can't just see random pictures. You have to be specific. Don't just say, I want success. What does it look like? Where are you waking up? What are you wearing? What kind of people are around you? What does your schedule feel like? Get deep into the details, because the clearer the picture, the more convincing it becomes to your subconscious. The mind is a pattern recognition machine. If you keep showing it a new pattern, it starts to normalize that pattern. That's when your identity starts to shift. Not because something happened outside of you, but because something clicked inside of you. It's not enough to see it once. You have to make vision a daily ritual. Every morning and every night, close your eyes and walk through the future you're building. Feel it, hear it, smell it. Emotion is the secret ingredient. If you can get emotionally connected to the future you want, your brain will treat it like a memory. That's the trick. Make the future so familiar in your mind that when it shows up in real life, it feels like home. Most people get caught off guard by blessings because they never saw them coming. You won't. You'll recognize your moment because you've already been living there in your mind. Another part of this is protecting your visual space. If you're constantly taking in images of fear, scarcity, destruction, and drama, it's going to be nearly impossible to hold on to a positive vision. That's why what you consume matters. What you watch, what you scroll, who you listen to, every bit of it either reinforces your vision or robs from it. You have to guard your mental movie screen like your future depends on it, because it does. If you don't design your vision, someone else will. You'll end up living someone else's expectations instead of your own purpose. And the thing about seeing the future is this. Once you've seen it clearly, you can't unsee it. That picture will start pulling you, stretching you, and reordering your decisions. Your vision becomes your GPS. It reroutes you every time you drift. It reminds you who you are, even when your circumstances try to make you forget. Day 4, move like you deserve it. Move like you deserve it. Not think, not wish, move, because motion is proof of belief. You can talk about your goals all day long, but if your steps don't match your statements, you're not in belief, you're in fantasy. When you really believe something belongs to you, you start showing up for it differently. You don't tiptoe around it. You walk with posture. You move with purpose. You act like it's already yours because internally it is. This isn't about arrogance, it's about ownership. Arrogance is loud with insecurity. Ownership is quiet but powerful. It doesn't need to impress anybody because it knows what it carries. When you move like you deserve it, you don't second guess your seat at the table. You don't apologize for your ambition. You don't shrink to make other people comfortable. You take up space, you move with clarity. You bring energy into the room because you're not trying to fit in, you're establishing presence. Most people wait for permission to move boldly. They wait for someone to clap for them, promote them, choose them. But when you know what you carry, you stop waiting, you step. You don't sit around hoping the door opens, you knock, and if it doesn't open, you build your own. That's the difference between people who live in potential and people who live in purpose. Purposeful people don't wait for the green light. They are the green light. Movement is magnetic. The more you move, the more you attract. People don't respond to intention, they respond to motion. They respond to energy. You could be one step away from favor, but you'll never know if you stand still. The opportunity you're praying for isn't always found. It's often activated by action. And that action doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be intentional. You don't need to know every detail of the plan. You just need to trust the next step and take it, like it leads somewhere valuable. Confidence doesn't show up before movement. It's built through it. Every time you act in faith, your belief grows. Every time you walk towards something bigger than you, you stretch. And every time you stretch, you expand your capacity. People think they'll move when they feel ready, but readiness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. You decide that you're ready, then you move like it. You walk in rooms like your name already carries weight. You pitch the idea like it's already backed. You launch the business like people are already waiting. You prepare the space for the future you say you want, and you do it now, not later. Your energy introduces you before you speak. Your body language tells a story before your words ever land. That's why moving like you deserve it matters, because the world is responding to your belief level, not just your talent. When you move with hesitation, the world mirrors that. When you move with boldness, the world starts to adjust. Doors start to open, people take notice, and favor begins to find you. But none of it happens if you don't act like you belong there. Even your habits should look like you're expecting success. Your routine should reflect vision. You don't wait until you get the promotion to act professional. You carry excellence now. You don't wait until you're rich to manage your money. You move like wealth is inevitable. That's not faking it. That's aligning with it. Your behavior is the down payment on your belief. Every day you show up with discipline, you're making a statement. I believe something great is coming, and I'm preparing for it. People who move like they deserve it are not fearless, they're focused. They feel fear, but they don't freeze, they move anyway. Because they know hesitation costs more than rejection. They know regret is more expensive than risk. So they decide daily to move with intention, with posture, and with power. Day 5, guard the gate. Guard the gate, because your mind is valuable real estate and not everything deserves access. The most dangerous threats to your future aren't always loud or obvious. They're subtle, consistent, and familiar. They slip in through conversations, social media, old habits, and low-frequency relationships. They don't always look like destruction. Sometimes they look like entertainment. But if you're not guarding what enters your mind, you're exposing your progress to contamination. You wouldn't leave the front door of your house wide open all night, so why leave the gates of your mind unprotected all day? Every word you hear, every image you see, every opinion you entertain, it's either building you up or breaking you down. You might think you're just scrolling, but you're actually training your focus. You might think you're just joking around, but you're actually lowering your standard. The gate isn't just what you let in, it's what you allow to linger. What you tolerate becomes what you repeat, and what you repeat becomes what you believe. Guarding the gate means you become selective with your exposure. Just because something is trending doesn't mean it deserves your attention. Just because someone has access to you doesn't mean they have the right to speak into you. You can be kind and still have boundaries. You can be loving and still be discerning. You don't have to argue with every voice. You just stop giving it a seat in your thinking. Not every conversation is neutral. Some words carry seeds. And if they get planted in the soil of your mind, they start to grow into doubt, confusion, insecurity, and fear. Protecting your mental environment also means curating your influences. You become like what you consume. If you want to be more disciplined, surround yourself with content, people, and energy that reflects discipline. If you want to walk in faith, feed your mind faith-driven language daily. You don't elevate by accident, you elevate by design. That means being intentional with what you listen to, what you read, what you meditate on, and who you let close to your vision. Everyone can be around you, but not everyone qualifies for access to your mind. One of the greatest ways to guard the gate is through self-awareness. You have to know your triggers. Know the thoughts that spiral you into doubt. Know the environments that drain your energy. Know the voices that disguise limitation as logic. Guarding your gate isn't about living in fear. It's about walking in wisdom. It's about saying, I value my peace too much to let chaos take root here. It's about saying, I'm working too hard on my growth to let negativity rent space for free. You're building something with your life, and when you're in building season, you don't leave the blueprint out for anyone to scribble on. You keep it protected. You keep it sacred. That's what your mind is. It's the blueprint of your future, and the gate is the difference between expansion and distraction. The enemy of your next level isn't always a major crisis. It's the small leak in focus. It's the passive permission to nonsense. It's the daily exposure to average. Guarding the gate also means guarding your self-talk, because sometimes the most toxic voice in your head is your own. You have to correct yourself in real time. When that old script plays telling you you're not good enough, not ready, not worthy, you shut it down. You speak truth back to it. You don't let it linger. Your mind believes repetition, so if you don't fight back with higher language, you're giving power to lower programming. This is not about control, it's about stewardship. You've been given a powerful gift in your mind. What you do with it will determine how far you go. So if you're serious about growth, serious about purpose, serious about change, you don't just work harder, you guard smarter.